All right, there we go. What's up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, we've got a truck talk. That's right. We're going to be going over some pretty fun stuff, I think. We're going to be talking about OP14, okay? Looks pretty exciting. Looks pretty interesting, okay? So just to kind of break down the video, what we're going to be going over about OP14, I've got it split into like 2, maybe 3 areas. The first 2, it's really just 1 point, but you know, I'll probably break it into 2 points because it's like a part A, part B kind of thing. It's going to be going over OP14's new leaders and then like just interesting cards and things I'm noticing from those new leaders, right? So that's going to be like a part 1A and part 2B, or part 1B, I guess. And then the next thing we'll talk about is the meta. It looks pretty healthy, guys. It looks pretty strong. And I guess, of course, that depends on who you talk to, right? If you like more of a triangle meta, looks like it might be changing a little bit, but if you're into more of what they call like a jungle meta, looks pretty good for the players who enjoy that. Okay, so let's do this, guys. Let's get right into it. I will have everything time-stamped in the general description, and I'll have all relevant links and stuff like that in the comment section below. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please do not hesitate to put those down in the comment section below, or hop on the VB Theory Discord. Link will be in the channel description. Today's video is brought to you by Nin Garden. And right now, when you buy any 2 playmats, you can get the non-stitched Sun God playmat for $9.99. On top of that, you can buy any 2 pins to get the 3rd for 50% off. So be sure to use my code, the VV Theory, at the checkout for 10% off of your next order. Now, first order of business today. OP14 has some really cool leaders. Hang on one second, guys. Got to adjust my camera. There we go. OP14 has some amazing looking new leaders, and I have put out a video on each one of them. I'll have that linked in the general description. You can, or not general description, but the comment section. I have an entire playlist of all the new leaders in action, okay, from OP14. And I have to say, I'm starting to think that what we kind of predicted as a community, I think a lot of people were predicting this, myself included. I think Bandai was trying to push the game. People were concerned at first, especially with OP13. I had started getting concerned all the way back in OP11 with Blue Purple Luffy, and then in OP12, you know, seeing Zoro, and who else? There was another one in OP12 I think I was kind of concerned with. Maybe it was Rayleigh. I can't remember now. It's been a while. But more than anything, it was really Blue Purple Luffy in 11, Zoro in OP12, and now in OP13, you know, Emu and Ace. It was like, man, what's going on? You know, Bandai's just going crazy with the power scaling, with the power creep, and I agree. We all kind of came to that same conclusion, right? With as a community, but it's like if you take a step back and you saw the direction the tournaments were going, and what I felt like the games were being extended longer and longer, it started making sense to me that Bandai was pushing the game's power level up a notch, you know, or up a few notches, right? They were pushing the power level to a certain level, and now that we're there, I think OP14 is showing, okay, that's exactly where they want the power level to be at, and now Bandai can start doing some really cool, really interesting things by including cards that are just going to be very powerful. You know, it kind of just sets the game at a new standard. Now, yeah, of course, that's kind of unfortunate for the older leaders, and I know, you know, Bandai's doing their best, I think. I mean, you know, we can only assume, right, that they're doing their best to help some of the older leaders with these EB sets and things like that, these extra booster sets. I think their entire purpose is to help out leaders that might be struggling in the current format, that feel like they're being left behind. And rotations are coming in April, I believe, or sometime in the new year, in 2026. There's going to be rotations where all of Block 1 is pretty much going to be gone, with a few exceptions, of course, cards that are reprinted, mangas, and things like that. At least from what I understand. That's still very, you know, blurry, foggy territory there. We'll tackle that more as we get into it. But a lot of cards are going to be gone, okay? So we won't have to worry about some of the old cards. And what Bandai's going to be able to do from there is upgrade those leaders to the new power level. Are they going to do that? I have no idea, right? Hey, I don't work at Bandai. I have no idea. But back to what we were saying, it looks like Bandai wanted to push the game up to a certain power level, and I think OP14 is right where they want it. Now, I will be a little bit concerned if they start pushing past that, because I think once you get the game to a certain point, I don't think you actually need to do too much power creep from there on. You'll always have to do small levels of power scaling just to, you know, make people want to buy the new cards. Like, okay, cool, there's a new powerful card in a new set that I need to get, so now I need to buy the new set. That's just kind of how TCGs work, right? Whether you like it or not, that's just kind of how it works. You know, if there's no new good cards coming out in a new set, if there's no more super powerful cards coming out in whatever the next set is, why would anyone buy it other than collectors? It's one of those situations. So we get that there needs to be at least some scale, some little bit of power scaling. But I think if they just keep the game right around where it's at right now, and then just make interesting effects from there, we might be in a pretty good spot for the foreseeable future, guys. We'll have to see what happens there. Okay, so back to the leaders, though. So we've got red Trafalgar Law in OP14, green Dracula Mihawk, blue Jinbe, blue yellow Boa Hancock, purple Doflamingo, black Crocodile, and black yellow Gecko Moria. Okay, so we have 7 leaders this go around for the 7 warlords. It's a 7 warlord set, and I have to say these new leaders, guys, they are really fun. They are really cool. I've already put out an entire video on all these new leaders. I'll have that linked in the comment section below for you to check out, you know, to see all these leaders in action. But I have to say, in general, man, these new leaders are so interesting. They're the most fun I've had with a new batch of leaders, maybe ever. Like maybe just like ever specifically. And when you look at it, you know, Law with red, now I'm just going to go through each one of them, what they're doing. Red with Trafalgar Law, they have power swapping and like this, it's like weenie board flood. You know, they're just like putting a bunch of little characters on the board, but those little characters on the board are being backed up by bigger characters that are going to buff the little characters through the leader's effect, which is a really interesting thing to do. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I'm not saying it's never existed before, but I personally don't think I've ever seen that before, where you have like the synergy between the small characters and the big characters. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. And it takes Red's major theme of power manipulation, and it uses it, right? It actually, we're getting to see Red do what it's supposed to do with the power manipulation. Okay, well, then we move on to green. We have Dracula Mihawk. And I have to say, there are certain cards we're seeing in green in particular that are very exciting, very spicy cards coming out, like this new 5-cost Perona. Wow, that card, guys, real strong. That card, real strong. And there's others as well. I believe there's a Tashigi in there that's very powerful as well. And what we're seeing with Dracula Mihawk is like this new spin on what we saw from green Zoro. And that's what I was saying, where it looks like they're trying to push the game to a certain power level and just go from there. Because if you look at the way those two leaders are designed, they're actually very similar. They're not the same, but they're very similar in this 3 dawn, this 3 dawn power spike, where it's like, okay, with Zoro, it was all about if I can attach 3 dawn or more to my leader, I get to attack twice potentially, right? And then with Dracula Mihawk, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to tap down a character and get access to 3 dawn. So it's like, okay, that's where we're at right now. That's where they want green to be, and they want green to have access to some of these cards that can keep characters rested to slow down the opponent and, you know, go from there, right? And we're seeing a little bit of prevention from green as well, which, you know, the removal prevention. That can be scary. We'll have to see what Bandai chooses to do with that, but they've been really big on the anti-removal in the game ever since they started really cracking down on how black is as a color, you know, for black's color identity. Okay, but that's green. That's Mihawk. Okay, so some really cool stuff going on there. Then for blue, we have Jinbe. Well, with blue, with Jinbe, what is blue supposed to be doing right now? It's all about like the deck manipulation. It has ways to bounce characters back and forth and whatnot, you know, bouncing cards to either to the hand or to the bottom of the deck. And then all this card draw. Well, what does Jinbe do? They're going, okay, well, we're going to just flood the board, which is a weird concept at first. But then you see how they're doing it with cards that replace themselves with blue's mechanic of like, you know, being all focused around deck manipulation and card draw. Okay, they're drawing all these cards up to replace the cards they're putting on the board. And they're saying, well, okay, well, now that we're going to let them put all these cards on the board and we're redrawing the cards, what are we going to do with all these cards when we're all tapped out? No problem. We'll just let you trash the cards you drew with your leader's effect, and we'll let you attach 2 dawn here, 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 and here. You know, so that's also really interesting and just a totally different spin on blue that I've never seen before. Okay, I've never seen that before with blue, where they're doing this, where it's, every single game I feel like I've ever played, there's always been some type of blue intellect-based deck where it's more controlling, right? It's more focused around maybe like late mid-range to control. Well, now they're saying, all right, well, let's just flip the script. Let's make a blue aggro deck. How does that sound? And sure, it did exist before in a way with blue Doflamingo, but I would consider that more of a mid-range deck than aggro. You know, now there were some pulls that I could get that were very aggro, that's for sure. But I think it was more built around being a mid-range controlling style list than it was aggro. Okay, so that's blue. Then sticking with blue, we go to blue-yellow, Boa Hancock. Well, guys, this leader, some of the funnest games I think I've had in a while with blue-yellow Boa Hancock. Being able to just go, you know what? I'm just going to take hits and I'm going to spit characters out for my life. And those characters are going to be potentially very powerful. And then if you try to wipe up my board, I'm going to burn your life up. So that, you know, you have yellow taken care of perfectly. You also have life gain built into certain effects in Boa, like with the 9-cost Boa. You could add 6-cost Kuma, whatever you choose to do from there. So you have all of yellow taken care of within Boa. And then with the blue, whenever you play one of these characters from your life, which is the yellow mechanic, the trigger mechanics, you're drawing a card. So there's the blue taken care of. And that is just so interesting. It's so cool to me. And you know, that leader, I am a yellow main, for those who are not aware. I am a yellow main. So that leader, big fan of that one. And combining blue and yellow, a leader that I've spent a lot of time playing in the past, blue-yellow Ace. Okay, so now I have a new blue-yellow leader to mess around with. I would like to play more with blue-yellow Nami. I won't even talk about that in today's video. But blue-yellow Nami sure would be nice to be able to play, but we're missing some important cards, and we're not going to get EV03 until after EV04. It's a headache, it's a nightmare. Otherwise, I would love to play blue-yellow Nami as well. But no, we got blue-yellow Ace, and now, very soon, blue-yellow Boa Hancock. And this leader is just so interesting. It's so fun to play. And it combines the colors so well, at least in my personal opinion. Okay, so there's Boa. And then we move on to purple with Doflamingo. Wow, what a total rework of the entire color purple. Now, we still have the ramp in there. The ramp is still there. But now we're adding in misdirection. Yes, now we're talking. Let's give purple a new identity. The ramp is fine. Keep the ramp in there. But misdirect? I like where that's going, okay? I like where that's going. And I think that's going to give purple... I know they already had O Come My Way. I'm not saying that nothing else existed like this. But I think that's the direction for purple moving forward. Because in the past, for those who are not aware, for those who don't remember, purple just became like this jack of all trades thing, where it's like, oh yeah, we're just going to give purple these effects that are built around returning Dawn from your field back to your, you know, to your Dawn deck. So you're going backwards in Dawn. Well, we'll offset those abilities with Dawn ramp, but we'll give those abilities super powerful effects because, hey, you're losing resources just to do this. Well, here's the thing, guys. After playing Riftbound, I have to say that I think that Bandai needs to branch out and give Dawn minus effects to every single color. Now, purple maybe should be the best at using those because they have the Dawn ramp to mitigate that, right, to offset the loss. However, that wasn't really a great identity. That's still not really an identity. It's just something they can do, right? Which is cool. I'm not saying it's nothing to do with identity, but it's just, it wasn't enough. It was almost boring. Like, oh, okay, it can ramp. Okay, what does it do, though? What does it do with said ramp? And now we're starting to see a very cool concept being introduced in OP14 with misdirection. For those who are not aware of how the leader works, you can Dawn -1 when your opponent attacks. You can Dawn -1 and have an attack change targets to another character with the Don Quixote Pirates type, and I believe it's the leader as well. So that is really, really cool, and I love that. Okay, so again, another very interesting, cool new leader coming out in OP14, and that's a very basic effect, but it's very powerful effect. Okay, so there's purple Doflamingo. Then we have black Crocodile. Black was my original main color in the game before yellow even was introduced to the game, and I have to tell you right now, black Crocodile is a blast. Here we go again, redefining what we know of black as a color. Now, this has happened about 3, if not 4 times, because all the way back in OP02, when black first got into the game, when I first got into the game was OP02, that's when black was first introduced into the game as a color. And back then, it was all about cost manipulation, okay? That ended up becoming very powerful. And over time, Bandai started moving the direction of black into, okay, let's make it more about graveyard or trash manipulation, right? And then over time, we'll make it more about negation, like with Blackbeard. And then it was like, okay, now we're going to make it where, you know, whatever you want to call Emu. We'll just give them Emu. Like, that's not even an identity. It's just a singular, very powerful deck. It's too bad they didn't make Emu into its own color, to be honest. But now here we are in OP14. And we have just shutdown, just lockdown. And I do love this idea, and I hope they combo it with negation, like what we're seeing with Ground Death. The 8-cost Crocodile, let me say this. The 8-cost Secret Crocodile from OP14 and Ground Death, yes, that I think should be the direction moving forward for black, on top of the trash recursion. I think the cost reduction, it seemed more like a failed experiment to me personally. You know, I think it was just, maybe it was just too hard to balance if removal was going to be the main identity of what black was. Because back in the day, guys, black just had tons and tons of removal. So once you got all this cost reduction built in, it started breaking certain mechanics in the game of like, okay, this, let's just use 4-cost, 6,000 power SR Lucci as an example. Okay, on play, it can only KO a 2-cost and a 1-cost. That's really not that bad. That's really not that busted. Well, that's not base cost. So now if you combo that with a bunch of cost reduction, all of a sudden you're KOing maybe a 5 and a 6-cost character or something like that. And now you're also, you know, developing a 6,000 power body while filling your trash back to the bottom of your deck and preventing you from milling out. So I think that was probably an unintended effect, but it still happened, right? Well, now we've moved into the future. They're kind of getting away from cost reduction, and they're even like experimenting with giving other colors cost reduction now with green minks, right? The green minks support coming out in, is it EV03 or EV04? I can't remember. There's going to be cost reduction in green minks decks now, okay? So pretty interesting stuff there. But I actually just hope they just get rid of cost reduction at this point and just build cards balanced around the base cost. Or maybe not base cost, maybe just whatever it says on the card, that's what you can remove. So that way characters that have cost increase built into them have that protection, that extra layer of protection built in. But anyway, that's probably a topic for another video. But let me just say this. Going back to what we were talking about with OP14 Black Crocodile, I think the direction they need to go with black moving forward is this 8-cost Secret Crocodile and Ground Death the event with negation built in. So basically arresting attacks, locking them down, saying, nope, sorry, you don't get to attack, and then being able to negate things like blocker, and last but not least, a little bit of graveyard recursion, a little bit of trash recursion, and that right there is an awesome new identity for black. I do hope they continue going forward with that. I'm not saying they should completely remove removal from black, but maybe approach it from a different angle like this. I think they're onto something here. Okay, then last but not least, we have Black Yellow Gecko Moria. And I have to say, that package they printed for Black Yellow Gecko Moria, the Thriller Bark Pirates package, chef's kiss. I mean, awesome. The 4-cost Perona, what an incredibly powerful new card they've given yellow. That is a generically good yellow card. Even if you're not running a Thriller Bark package, why would you not run that card? It's a 4-cost 5K with a 1K counter. It does have a potential trigger built in if you do want to build in the Thriller Bark Pirate stuff. And then on play and on KO, lock down a 6-cost attack. Yeah. Now we're talking. Now we're talking, guys. Because yellow was just missing a card for the mid-game. Like, yeah, Kuma's nice because you get to gain a life. Okay, but what are you going to do with that extra life? And then what they started doing with yellow over the course of many sets, it came out in OP03. That's when yellow came into the game. And I've mentioned this before, but I have to mention it again. At first, when they were introducing these triggers into the game for yellow, it was, okay, well, let's make it where they have to trash a card to play out this card, or to play out this character. And it's like, okay, that's strong, but you're losing a lot from that, right? You're actually losing 2 cards to hand, if you actually think about it. So your opponent attacks in, you take a life. Okay, well, you would normally take that card to your hand. Well, no, it's going onto the board, and you're trashing a card from your hand. So you're taking a life, but you're basically losing 2 answers from your hand. Now, yes, you're establishing tempo. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to say here. So that was the original stipulation, the original condition for being able to play out some of these powerful triggers from your life for yellow. Then from there, I think they went over to Land of Wano, and it was like, okay, well, you know, we don't want people to lose too much advantage, too much hand advantage. So let's make it where there's a condition on the trigger. Let's make it where your opponent has to have 3 or less life. Okay, that was a step in the right direction for sure. Then we see what happened with the Revo Army stuff, where it's like, okay, you and your opponent have to have 5 or less life. And now we move into OP14, and there's 2 different things going on there. There's the Kuja Pirates and Amazon Lily stuff for Blue Yellow Boa Hancock, and that is locked specifically to those kind of leaders. That is very restrictive, but they're very powerful, trigger characters. But the Thriller Bark Pirate stuff, yes. That's going to be easy to print, support for in the future because it's so just generically good. And then on top of it, they print these cards that aren't afraid to get KO'd. So it's like, okay, cool. Because one thing that would happen, I used to play a lot of Red Yellow Sabo. Anyone who's followed the channel for long enough knows that. Played a lot of Red Yellow Sabo in my day. And one of the worst problems about taking these characters down to from your life and putting them on the board is now they're susceptible to being removed, right? They can be removed now. And okay, well, there goes all my tempo, and I just lost a life and potentially a card from hand if I had to trash a card with this trigger. Well, guys, these Thriller Bark cards, they say, okay, we're going to just trigger from life, play a card from our trash that's Thriller Bark Pirates type that costs 4 or less, and now it's on the field, and it has an on-KO effect. Very nice, Bandai. Very well done there. Very happy about that. Okay, well, that's all I'm going to say on that part of it, guys. Let's keep moving. This video it's probably going to be a lot longer than I thought it would be. Let's finish up by talking about the healthier meta, okay? So I'm going to read off these stats here. I obviously don't have like the graph in front of me. I'm going to be using a graph from gumgum.gg from the East for OP14 for the first early results, right, from all of the flagship level and higher events, okay? And right now we have Emu at 20%. We have Mihawk at 12%. We have Red Blue Ace at 12%. Blue Yellow Boa at 10%. Purple Doflamingo 9%. Jinbe 7%. Blue Jinbe. Blue Purple Luffy 7%. Blue Yellow Nami at 5%. Black Croc and Blue Purple Sanji at 4%. And then Red Black Sabo 3%. And then Black Yellow Gecko and Green Jory Bonnie at 2%. Well, guys, if you actually think about that, look at those top 5 decks that we just mentioned. The Black Emu, Green Mihawk, Red Blue Ace, Blue Yellow Boa, and Purple Doflamingo. So did y'all hear that? That's red, green, blue, purple, black, and yellow represented in the top 5 decks in the game right now. That makes me very happy. I'm very excited to see that. Now, I understand that a lot of people don't like that. The people who like the more triangular meta, like the more triangle-based meta where you can just do rock, paper, scissors testing. I get it. I 100% understand that. But I have to say, from like a game balance and design standpoint, and for like the deck builders and the more casual players out there, this is very important. Because remember, I would say the overwhelming majority of any TCG is the casual players. At least it should be, or you're probably not dealing with a super healthy game. That's not to say a game can't be healthy, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying, generally speaking, when you look at these bigger games like Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh!, those are the big 3, right? The top 3, the big 3. Well, number 1, One Piece is definitely knocking at the door, and number 2, I wouldn't be surprised if Riftbound does soon as well. But if you look at it, you have a massive casual player base, and that's very healthy for a game, right? Well, when you look at a format that is like a 2 or 3 deck format, or, if it's a tier 0 format where there's just a single deck running the show, that's basically a nightmare situation for the casual players. And if you start losing your casual player base, then I think you're in a little bit of trouble. Whereas, yes, at the higher levels of competition with the people who prefer the triangle meta, or less, the 1 to 3 deck representation at the top, because it's easier for play testing, I do understand where you're coming from, and I hope in the future we can resolve that in a better way by introducing a sideboard, so that way the skilled players aren't just losing games due to a mismatch. I just queued into an unwinnable matchup, so now I just lose, right? I totally get that. That's like one of the big concerns about the jungle format is, okay, if we have, a bunch of different, how do I say this? If we have like 5 or 6 decks that are all competing at the top, and then like 2 of the decks you just auto lose to, but the other 2, then there's the mirror match, but then there's the other 2 that you just kind of have a favorable match into, that is not always enjoyable either, obviously. But I think that's where a sideboard in the future, a pre-sideboard option, can really fix things from there. But yeah, let me just start wrapping up with this, guys. I don't want this video to go on for too long. I think that OP14 looks absolutely incredible. The leaders look awesome. The new support we are seeing, especially from yellow. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, guys, because I'm a yellow player at heart. I'm a yellow main. And I like black. That's my second favorite color in the game. So with black and yellow both getting the support they got and these really cool new things going on with them, I could not be more happier about that. But all of the leaders look cool in general. And then seeing this meta, seeing it not being just 2 or 3 decks at the top and then nothing else even has a chance, I do like to see that. And one thing I didn't really get a chance to talk about in today's video is, yes, it is looking like Black Emu is slightly overtuned. Okay, Red Blue Ace is not far behind it, by the way, because it looks like we have 20% Black Emu, 12% Green Mihawk, and 12% Red Blue Ace. Those are the top 3 for sure. And it looks like those might need a slight tuning. Maybe not Mihawk. I think Mihawk's fine, but I would not be upset. Some people might be, but I would not be upset to see Black Emu and Red Blue Ace get a slight little tuning of the knobs there, maybe tone it down just a little bit, and then we will have an absolutely beautiful looking meta, guys, very well represented by all the different colors there. All right, guys, I'm done. I hope y'all enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell me what y'all thought about all this stuff in the comment section below. How excited are you for OP14? Are you as excited as I am, or are you not really feeling it? You guys tell me down in the comment section below. I always just ask that you please be respectful, okay? All right, I'm done. Hope y'all enjoyed. Till next time, peace.